And now, from you, Lord Hastings, we're going to move to an academic and an entrepreneur who's been supporting and advising businesses as a consultant for 20 years. Some people say he's a thought leader. He's certainly creative, and particularly on CSR, DEI, and business development. He's authored 2 books. I'm looking forward to the emergence of the race paradox, why organizations fail on race. He's the managing director of the Aspire, he's grinning now, the Aspire consultancy, and I'm enjoying this. The founder of Marshall & Brown, quote, Jamaica's finest contemporary food brand. He is, of course, Dr. Calton Brown, founder of the Black Entrepreneurs Conference. We'll meet him in a moment, but first, let's see him in action.
I mean, for the last sort of, I suppose, 30 years, I suppose, I've always had an interest in performance and why certain people perform better than others. And what does it take to actually optimize and be the best you can possibly be? Because the moment you start to get into that section, that area of your mind that optimizes what you want to do and how you want to deliver, that's the game changer, as you would call it. That makes the difference between what you thought you were capable of doing to what you can actually start to deliver.
Dr. Calton Brown, here he is. Yeah.
Are we optimistic? Brilliant, thank you. You know, last year I said that I'm a Jamaican, I'm an African in London. So I thought, let me go and investigate this. So I went to Ancestry.com. And I decided I really wanted to find out. And guess what it turned out? I wanted to say, I'm Jamaican. Lord Hastings, I'm Scott. No. So, I'm 35% Ghanaian. So, to those Ghanaians in the room, etise? But also, I'm 34% Nigerian. So, Ekaro! So, Ekaro. And of course, I'm also 8% Congolese. So bonjour, ça va, et toi? And of course, awagwa, mi Jamaican. So I can code switch. But I'm also very English, of course. So thank you. So good morning and welcome to today. And this is about entrepreneurship. And Lord Hastings, thank you so much for your rendition and your thoughts. And it's very provocative and thought-provoking. So today I wanted to share some insights about the Black Business Entrepreneur Conference. Why are we here? You know, for decades, people have been saying entrepreneurship in the UK is very difficult, and certainly for Black entrepreneurship is even more difficult. So I want to share some data with you and just some insights, but also talk about the opportunities as well as the challenges that exist today. Let's start off. It has to be Tony Dada. His head's down. Money.com said that Black businesses and ethnic minorities are challenged today. This is 2023, so this is nothing new. This is just last year. This is when they're saying that these challenges are real. So what I'm trying to try and do is to explore those opportunities, those challenges. What do they look like? So for me, does anybody drive? Put your hands up, legally. Anybody use a sat-nav? Okay, so you've got your sat-nav on, and you're trying to navigate. The destination is set, correct? You set the destination, you tap it in, this is where I'm going. Roadblocks everywhere. So you turn to Waze as if the Waze is going to give you a better solution. Well, sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. But what you're saying, you want to set your destination to go to a particular direction, and that's what we do in business. Our destinations, we want to grow our businesses. We want to grow economically, socially, politically. We want to do all of those things. But we also want sustainable businesses. But are the challenges and opportunities the same for a Black entrepreneur compared to other demographics? Well, the data tells us it's not. Because it's important that we talk about data because it underpins the narrative. Because sometimes, often in the organization, we talk about stuff, we say, well, does this really happen? Well, data supports that narrative, and that's really important for us to try and understand. And I talk about it in terms of a diversity navigation system. Think about that. Our routes to the destination, we all want a sustainable, growing, good, vibrant economic business. Would that be fair to say? Yes. Absolutely. So our challenges are several, but let's just talk about the first three. Access to finance. Access to the supply chain. What does that look like? And also we're going to talk about perception. Because one of the things sometimes we can't control is how people view us. So far we've set the destination. We want to grow a strong economic business. But we recognize the road to that success is often littered with challenges or roadblocks. Let's give you some context to start with. In the public sector, there's £290 billion per annum, £290 billion per annum spent on public procurement. Now, black and ethnic minorities represent 7% of the businesses within the UK economy. But less than 1% of that 290 billion is spent with black and ethnic minorities. So the challenge is significant, and that's in the public sector. So if you then, look at that and look at the private sector, you can extrapolate that to be a significant number. The British Bank recently said that diversity business are more likely to have systemic and structural inequalities than any other group. So this is not me saying that, this is what the data's telling us. So we know the challenge is real. So let's just talk about how do we navigate some of these challenges for finance? Well, we know that in the economy there's wealth inequalities. We're more likely to be poor. And Lord Hastings talked about wealth inequalities and poverty in other countries, but 1 in 5 children in the UK are living below poverty line. 1 in 2 black children are living below poverty, as described in the UK today. So my view is this: if we can have more sustainable, stronger economic businesses that we own and we run, we can get ourselves out of this economic condition of poverty and generate wealth, but wealth that is intergenerational wealth. Yeah. £13.2 billion of investment in the venture capitalist market was given out in 2023. But less than 2% of that investment goes to black businesses. It's a challenge. It's a real challenge. VCs receive less, black business entrepreneurs receive less than 0.2% of finance from venture capitalists out of that substantial amount of money, which is, it's just incomprehensible to think about. The average black business in the UK, average turnover is £25,000. That's turnover. That's not profit. Turnover. It doesn't mean that we don't have entrepreneurs doing multi-millions of pounds, and you'll hear from some of those today who are doing extremely fantastic, amazing, multi-million pound worth of business. There are those who are growing, but there are those who are doing less. But what we need to do is to try and this is why we're here, this is our purpose, is to get our businesses to grow. The challenges are real, but the opportunity is also there. If you're a black business, your perception of trust is very difficult with a banking institution. Actually, 49% of black entrepreneurs believe that institutions are going to have a negative perception of who we are when we walk through the door. So you go for, hey, can I have some money, please? Hey. What for or how come? Because they don't have that, the perception often is lower looking at us as a community than others. And that's what the data is telling us. This is not me telling you that. So that's with finance. So what about supply chain? Those big corporate organizations have opportunities for us to do business with. £290 billion in the public sector, and yet still we receive as a company, it's not that it's a right for us to have it, but at least we want access to the opportunity. That's all we're asking. So the supply chain. So people look at the supply chain and it's complex. Because it's easy I want to knock at your door and say, I want to like to do business with you. But the Institute of Supply Chain and Procurement said that we are more likely to look at supplies which are larger, because A, it's easier for us. Two, we want to aggregate our supply chain because it's structurally easier for us. We don't want to have, how do I say it? If I want 10 organizations versus one organization delivering for us. Smaller organizations may not have the cash flow to support a 60-day payment terms or a 90-day payment terms. So there are all types of issues or challenges that are preventing us from getting access. Similarly, we also have the challenge of this. You send out a tender. Has anyone done a PQQ, RFQ before? What that means, when you want to do a tender for an organization, you have to fill out a form. And you fill out the form, do you have 10 million insurance? No. How big are you? I'm small. Not really, but you know. So you fill out this form with the intention of getting access to the opportunity. So for the first hurdle, you try and get into the access to the opportunity, you can't get into it. Why? Because the system itself is structured in such a way that it becomes prohibitive. So what I think about the corporates, the public, the private sector organizations in here, we need to start thinking about how can we do things differently than we currently are. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And our thinking has been developed and we have this myopic view of the world. And that's how it is. That's the way we've always done it, so we'll continue to do it in the same way. But if we want to make real progress and change, we have to do something differently. So the supply chain, we have to navigate the supply chain. Perception. What do people think about you when you walk in the room? Now, the Black Entrepreneur Report, when I wrote it in 2021, Black entrepreneurs said 75% of them felt that when they walked into a room, the perception was that they would be viewed less than capable of the current people. Now that's shocking to think about that. You feel that if I'm going to go for a piece of business, the likelihood of me being entertained for that business is going to be here, it's going to be low. And 86%, which is really interesting for me, 86% perceive that within the public and private sector, there are policies, structures, and systems that were inherently biased in their structures. So what does that tell you? We need to change the structure. Because if, as I said, it goes back, if nothing changes, nothing changes. But that's the external stuff we've got to navigate, right? What about internally? As individuals, as black entrepreneurs. Interesting. So things such as, you've heard these terms, imposter syndrome. Du Bois talks about double consciousness, that duality of self, code switching, awagwan, etise, ekaro. I'm navigating all of this stuff all the time, depending on the environment that I'm in. Social identity. Now, many years ago, for those who didn't know, I worked for the Royal Rat Catchers, Rentokil. I started off in business development. And I can remember back then, it was in the 90s, I had a navy blue double-breasted suit on. I had a red paisley tie and hanky. And there was a term called yuppies back in the 90s. Remember the term yuppies? But I was a buppy, black upwardly mobile professional person. So I had my briefcase. So I was in pest control, and I had to go to people's houses or businesses and look at their particular pest problem, whether that's cockroaches or rats or mice. Interesting. So I was called into a property, an inquiry in Bayswater, Lancaster Gate to be specific. And I looked at this beautiful house opposite Hyde Park, Bayswater Road, and I ring the bell. And I caveat what I said about how I was dressed for a particular reason. So I ring the bell, lovely luxury apartment. I go up into the lift. You know one of those old cranky lifts? You walk in and it's all very nice and very plush. So I walk in and knock at the door and say, hello, good afternoon, I have an appointment. This lady opens the door and I say, good afternoon, I have an appointment, my name is Calton Brown. She said, oh, I thought you were British. So it depends on which person I was at this time. Was I the Jamaican? I say, oh, wait up. Or if I was my Nigerian self, I was, hey, you see you? Anyway. But I decided that I was going to resort back to my Trevor McDonald. I said, but madam, I am. But it was interesting. The perception of what she saw was just what she was really saying, you're not British. Was that what she was really saying? So I thought, well, how am I going to deal with this particular scenario? I don't feel right here, but obviously I've got to be a professional. So we went in and I thought, with Rentokil, you got taught a lot of stuff about animals and pests. So I said, madam, I'm here to look at your Monomorium feroanis or your Lasius niger. She's looking at me. Monomorium feroanis means is a pharaoh's ant. Lasius niger is a garden ant. How clever. I thought, I'm going to show her I'm clever. But her perception of me softened at that time. She said, oh, he's very bright. But what her initial perception was, he wasn't British. What she was really saying, you are not white. That's what she was saying to me. And I felt uncomfortable, I've got to be honest. I felt, should I be here? Or was I a bit of an imposter? How? And I started to code switch. I had to become a different version of myself. I couldn't be authentic in myself. And that's what we have to navigate as entrepreneurs, often. We're normal people, great business entrepreneurs, but sometimes we have to do all of this stuff. So we have the external stuff to navigate, and we've got our internal stuff to navigate. Does that make sense? So we've got external navigation systems, and we've got our internal navigation systems to go. But guess what? Despite all of those challenges, black and ethnic minority continue to be the #1 growth entrepreneurs in the UK today. Today. Despite all of that challenge, we continue to thrive. But I believe there's a paradox. And I talk about this in my new book. Please order now, Jacaranda books. But the paradox is this. I think there is a disconnect between intention and reality, being intentional and performative. So we need to reconcile that. So what does the paradox mean? I talk about the paradox as being an unconscious illusion of inclusion that conveys the appearance of a racial cohesion and an equitable coexistence. But actually the paradox is this. The paradox is a set of complex, interconnected constructs that gives organization what I call a cosmetic facade, the appearance of. I'm in a meeting, we're discussing it, we have a diversity team, that's great, tick. We have a monthly report, tick. When I look at your leadership team, what does that look like? When I look at your diversity supply chain, what does that look like? Does that make sense? Because the reality has to be manifested in tangible outcomes and results. The numbers don't lie. I think it was W. Deming said that without data, you're just a person with an opinion. Without data. Because data underpins the narrative. But Deloitte said, significant majority of companies intend to shift from diversity as a program to inclusion as a business strategy. But how many organizations are doing that? Now, I'm going to talk about the business case for black businesses in a moment. But it needs to be part of their strategy and not a sidebar, not something augmented into something else. So what we want to do is to empower ourselves, to engage partners, allies, corporate, public, private sectors, because you can't do it on your own. There's an old saying in Jamaica, one hand can't clap. See, I can be my authentic self here, right? One hand can't clap. That means you can't do it on your own. It has to be collaborative and strategic in our thinking. But also we must educate ourselves and others in the process of doing that. So what have we done since the last year's conference? I just wanted to share some insights with you. Well, we've done some roundtables. We held a roundtable earlier this year. We got entrepreneurs together to kind of talk to them and educate and see what are the challenges, but also what are the opportunities. So that's what we've done. We held the the Black Business Association at London Chamber of Commerce, we held a networking event. There's a word I often use, it's called social capital. Access to people, opportunity, and resources. We often lack that. So having a networking event at the London Chamber of Commerce enables us to get together on a regular basis and to understand what we can do better and more. And so we can work in a more collaborative and strategic way. I was fortunate to be asked to host a chair, a finance roundtable with the London Chamber of Commerce this year, where we sat around the table with those institutions, people like Coutts Bank or the City of London Corporation or Santander, HSBC, Goldman Sachs. And it's important that we're in the room. It's important that you have a voice whilst you're in the room. Because sitting around and hosting that event, chairing that event, was really insightful. So the opportunities are there, but you need to be present. And when you're present, use that voice. In order to educate ourselves, we hosted some masterclasses up and down the country. London, Birmingham, Manchester. And thank you for the partners in the room, such as Tesco's, such as NatWest, such as People's Partners, such as Heinz, Kraft Heinz, FP Comms, and myself. We went around the country hosting masterclasses, how we can get better at what we do. How can we get better in doing these P qualification questionnaires? How can we get better at presenting ourselves? How can we get better at doing our branding? So we did that because we want to see direct outcomes as opposed to just being performative. We had a group of 20 entrepreneurs from Lewisham, and he said, and I quote, "Today was transformative." In order for us to grow, we need to transform what we need to do. Last year here, we had a session called Pitch for Success, and you'll see some of that later on today. Now, there was two companies. One was called Matcha Yard, and the other one was called Shush, which is a menopause product. And Monique Farquharson submitted her products from Matcha Yard, which is a Japanese fusion matcha with Jamaican flavors. She lived in Japan for several years. You'll hear from Monique later because she's pitching today. But at the time, she sent her products in. She sent them in, and in truth, she said, I wasn't ready. But she sent them anyway because she thought it was an opportunity. But by being present, what happened? There was a guy called Adrian Boswell. Is Adrian here? He's not here. From Selfridges. He's a buyer from Selfridges. And Adrian said, I love her product. I love her brand. It's not right today, but guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to mentor her for 12 months. I'm going to help her to get where she needs to be by being present. So when you take the step out to a tender conference like this, make sure you make the opportunity work for you. There are people in here that you can network with, and it may not be them alone. It could be someone that they actually know that can give you access to the opportunity. So today, she's now ready. And she's here again today. And guess what? This afternoon, she'll be pitching for success. Today. Marva Williams, what a wonderful, Dr. Marva. Hey. She's been on women's programs, it's called GMTV Women's Hour. Is it that what it's called? I can't remember. What's it called? Women's Hour? Women TV? But she said, coming here has given me confidence. And she said, the second thing is, I'm not alone in the journey. Because as an entrepreneur, you know, it's difficult, right? You're on your own. Who do you speak to? The pressures of what am I doing and how am I doing it? But being a part of this network helps you to navigate that particular path. As we said, one hand can't clap. So there's two examples here of people who came here with different intentions to want to understand how to grow their business, and we're supporting them on that journey. Doing business with black and ethnic minority businesses is good business. And I'm going to demonstrate that to you. It's good business. Look, today, we've just had a change in government, and everyone's talking about the economy. Now, there's a report NatWest produced, and it said that black and ethnic minority entrepreneurs contribute 25 billion to the UK economy. But in 2017, I remember Baroness McGregor said, actually, there's a 24 billion missed opportunity for not engaging with diversity businesses and people within business. The same NatWest report by Rhonda Ram and NatWest said the 25 billion contribution today in the UK economy, GDP, can transition to become 100 billion with the right resource, with the right support, that ethnic minorities can contribute significantly more to the UK economy. And that's what we need. Now, why is it good for business? What's the business case? The Hackett report said there's a 133% greater probability that your business will do better when you employ diversity businesses. You're more likely to get a better return on your investment. Talk about unemployment. The fact per £1 million, there was a study in America, per $1 million it said that for every £1 million spent, you create jobs, 10 jobs. But equally so, customers are more likely to shop with you when they know that you have a diversity agenda. Now, do we spend money? Do we spend naira, pounds, sterling, cedis? We do. And here's the deal. Before I come on to that, there's 4.5 billion pounds, 4.5 billion pound disposable income for ethnic minorities in the UK. Well, I'll come on to that in a moment. There's a couple of reports. 76% of diverse suppliers, when they are doing business with you, are delivering on service. 76% of the time are delivering beyond expectation. 23% diverse suppliers exceed expectation. In other words, 99% of the time, when black and ethnic minorities get the opportunity, they deliver. They deliver because the opportunities are so scarce. But when they get them, they hold on to those opportunities. So let's not lose sight of that. £4.5 billion, £4.5 billion disposable income. Disposable income. We spend £230 million per month on health and beauty. I don't know who's spending that money. I would suspect I have an idea, but I would not go on record. £230 million per month is spent on health and beauty. 40% of black women shoppers still find it difficult to find cosmetics for skincare. And consumers from multi-ethnic backgrounds spend 25% more on health and beauty products. So if I'm a business retailer, I'm thinking, I want those as my customers. They spend a lot of money. That's what I'll be thinking. And 30% of black women need to go to a specialist to find their products. But I was looking at this in context, 4.5 billion. That's a lot of money. And being a bit of a nerd, I thought, how does that relate to countries? Does the UK disposable income from black and ethnic minorities, is it greater than GDPs of some countries? And it does. The amount of disposable income that is spent in the UK economy is greater than the GDP for Liberia, Sierra Leone, Suriname, Lesotho, Belize. We are spending a huge amount of money, bigger than some whole entire countries. So that's the power that you have within you. And you need to be cognizant of that. We really need to be cognizant of that. Okay, let's move it on. So the Black Pound report also talked about the multi-ethnic consumers are more motivated to buy locally, 64%. 93% of them said consumers think brands have a responsibility to consider diversity as part of their agenda. And if you're not doing that at the moment, think about doing that because the consumers are telling you. The data's telling you. And also when you think about advertising, ensure that if you are not just being performative in terms of saying we're doing adverts, but actually do it genuinely with the intention of doing business with diverse customers. It's good business doing business with diversity business. They will give you a better return on your investment. But I want to just talk about some brands. Just think about, what do you see here? What do you see? What do you see? Just brands, right? You just see brands. Do you see black brands? Do you see a black face on the... They're just brands, right? They're great brands. This is the products they produce. But these are the founders of those brands. So the first thing you need to focus on is it a good product? Does it have a great USP? Is there a gap in the market? Is there a particular offering that they can deliver upon to fill a gap in that market and consider a pain point to deliver upon? The answer is yes. But let's not look at them just as black brands. Look at them as great brands first. And do they fulfill the objective? What about this? What does that look like to you? Just another brand, right? These are fashion brands. This is their products. But they're the brand owners. Let's talk about tech. Nice brands. This is what they do. I mean, the Manu AirPods, he was doing AI a long time ago. He had a translation AirPods. So you could go to France or India or wherever it was, and you could have a conversation with someone and it instantaneously translates in your AirPods. But they're the brand owners. So doing business, we know that black founders are 8% more likely to be more innovative than any other demographic group. So why do we need innovation? It solves problems, future problems. And it also gives you a competitive advantage. So if you're working with a community that are likely to be more innovative, deliver great brands or product propositions, and give you better outcomes, that's got to be good for your business, right? Yeah. Absolutely. So doing business with black businesses, it doesn't have to be a risk, because often the perception is a risk. 8 to 12% are likely to be more innovative. You're likely to get a greater return on your investment. 99% of the time when they engage with us as a community in your business space, they will deliver. But also, here's the other advantage. Often, 0.7% saving on your bottom line. And you'll hear from some wonderful speakers later on today who can talk to that in a bit more depth. But we deliver on innovation. So doing business with black businesses doesn't have to be a risk. It is an opportunity. So what's next? We want to continue to support and advocate for black and ethnic minorities in the UK, for sure. So what are we doing? We are going to continue the business masterclasses in London, Birmingham, Manchester 2025. We've partnered with Ernst & Young for next year. And in fact, we've partnered with them for the next 3 years. So Teresa and your team, thank you. Noble, thank you. So what are we doing? We are going to deliver a cohort every year. And that cohort every year will have 12 months worth of training programs, mentorship, support. And we're going to measure you, and we're going to support you on a journey of growth. So the first cohort is going to be 10 for this year. For next year, it's going to be 20, and the third year, it's going to be 40 people. We're going to have as cohorts that we are going to support you on a journey to demonstrate your growth. So we're going to take you from A, hopefully, to the Z. Now, all that information will be, we have a conference app, and you can register for that on a conference app going forward. So that's what we want to do, because we want to deliver. We want to be intentional with outcomes and not performative. But also, we've partnered with MSD UK. Reshma, thank you. So for those of you who do not know MSD UK, they're an advocacy organization. They certify ethnic minority businesses. Okay, so what happens, they bring lots of corporate organizations together who want to be part of that process, where they want to have access to ethnic minority organizations. So there's companies you'll see, such as all of these types of names. There's National Westminster Bank, who are here today. I've highlighted JC Decker, Lloyds Bank, you got Meta, you got BT, Bank of Scotland, you name it, there are loads here. IBM, who are here, Accenture, who are here, Bristol Myers, they are here, CBRE are here. So there are organizations in this room. I mean, CBRE are probably one of the largest property portfolio companies globally. And these organizations are members of MSD UK. And what these organizations do, they provide opportunities of what they've got coming up to do business with to MSD UK. And as a member of MSD UK, you have access to those opportunities. It's no guarantees, let me make it clear. but it gives you access. One of the challenges we have is access to opportunity. So what I'm keen to do is to make sure we give you the access. So MSD UK have a stand out there today, and we are giving 20 annualized memberships for MSD UK, complimentary as a partnership with MSD UK today. So Resma, thank you again. But the opportunities are there, so don't say, well, I mean, I get nothing. The opportunities are there, but you've got to be present and turn up for those opportunities, right? So MSD UK, thank you. So I'm going to put a challenge out to you on us as entrepreneurs. Often the challenge is we don't think big enough. There is a magic in thinking big. I remember a book I read in the 90s by David Schwartz. It says there's a beautiful magic of thinking big. Because when you start to thinking big, the opportunities and the possibilities become exponential. But often we think micro, not macro. So today, set yourself the challenge. Can I double the size of my business this next year? Can I double the number of customers I have next year, going forward? I'm taking your doubling my egg. Can I increase the number of markets? Lord Hastings talked about Africa. I mean, you're going to hear from a guy today, Byron Dixon, good friend of mine, but he's trading across the globe in China and India. So the opportunity could be in Jamaica. It could be in Congo. It could be in Nigeria. It doesn't matter. The world is bigger than what we just see. So think macro, not micro. But also importantly today, increase your network. Just don't stand still thinking, I'm in this room having a nice time, but actually there are opportunities and people here that can help you grow your business. And then measure your performance. But I'm also going to challenge those public, private, third sector organizations in the room who are here, you're present. Can you double the size of your spend with black and ethnic minority businesses? Can you? Let's be intentional, not performative. Can I increase the number of diverse suppliers, not just by the value what you spend, but the number who you spend your money with is also key. Because if I give Junior £1 million, that's one contract. But if I give 10 of you 100,000, that's 10 people. So let's think about spreading that opportunity. And increase the number of categories you do business with. You don't have to be in retail. CBRE are looking for people in tech. There's architects, there's accountants in this room. The spread of business opportunities is exponential. Speak to MSD UK, speak to your colleagues. The opportunities are there, but we've got to go and take them. I want to leave you with this. Du Bois said this: now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. Thank you.